Hey folks, in this video, I'm going to tell you the two best times of year to buy a house in the Tuscaloosa area and the reason why and the dates that I'm going to give you are probably going to surprise you. So if you've ever thought about buying a property and you're looking for the best time of the year when maybe there's less competition and you can get better deals, we've got two periods of time in the Tuscaloosa area where the odds are really in your favor. Not to say that they can't be other times of the year, but things certainly are more in your favor on these two periods of the calendar, and it happens every single year. I'm Phil Duke Jr. I'm a licensed real estate broker here in the Tuscaloosa area, and I like to mention this a lot in my videos. Just a little story. My kids, I've got a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. They play video games and they're really good at it. They've been doing it since they were little, and they find some new game online and they start playing it, and they pass me the controller. Your turn, Dad. And I start playing, and 10 seconds in, the bad guy gets me, right? I didn't know the bad guy was going to pop up behind the bush or whatever, 10 seconds into the game. So my kids at 10 and 6, they're not smarter than me, but they have played the game longer than I have, and they knew about the bad guy. And that's kind of how I view, my experience in the real estate business. I'm not smarter than you. I'm actually probably pretty average intelligence. I had to join the Army to go to college. So I'm not smarter than you, but real estate is the game that I play every single day. And because I've played it for years and years and years, every single day, full time, have helped hundreds of people buy and sell. I know about the bad guys that are going to pop up. So if you are watching this channel, you're thinking about making a move or investing in the Tuscaloosa area, let me be your cheat code. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into today's content. So number one, this one might be surprising to you. Everybody thinks of the summer market as being like prime time, and that's when everybody tries to move, and that is true in the early part of summer. But from July 4th to, I would say, mid-August, maybe even late August, depending on the year and the weather sometimes, that is a very slow period of time for real estate in the Tuscaloosa area. And here's why. um, you know I had a guy, when I was going through my real estate course, he told me, at the end of the day, y'all are selling bedrooms and bathrooms to mamas and daddies. And not everybody's a mom or a dad. Not everybody's buying a house to have their kids live with them. Some people are buying investment properties. Some people are buying a property they're going to Airbnb. Sometimes people are empty nesters, and the kids have already moved out. They're looking for their maybe their last home that they hopefully ever plan on moving into, their last move. And then some people are like just getting started in life. Maybe they're single, maybe it's a couple that has no kids. But I would say that still rings true today. And from July 4th until mid-August or late August, most people who have kids in this area, and I'm talking Tuscaloosa, Northport particularly, most of them are going on their last beach vacations. Yesterday, my kids got their school supply list, and we bought those items online on Walmart.com, and we did a Walmart pickup to go pick them up. So, like, we are already thinking about school starts in a few weeks. Here, for us, it normally is the first or second week of August is when, like, public schools start back. Elementary school, middle school, high school. Normally, the University of Alabama and Shelton State Community College and Stillman College, which are the three colleges and universities in this town, they normally start kind of mid-August, right? So that first week of August, most of the time, is when students are allowed to move into their dorm rooms, and that's when students come back and move into their apartments or their 4-bedroom house that they're renting out with a couple of their buddies. So from July 4th through the middle to end part of August, I think a lot of people are in end of summer and back to school mode. A lot of people I know are taking their last trips to the beach, right? We're fortunate here in the Tuscaloosa area to be about 4.5 hours away from Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, Fort Morgan, Panama City Beach, Perdido Key, Destin. 4.5 to 5 hours you can be at the beach without having to book a flight anywhere. And you could literally wake up at 6 a.m., throw everything in the car by 7 a.m., and you could be at the beach by noon on any given day. And so that time of year, people are in back to school mode. Another time of year, which this makes sense as well, is around the holidays. So from like Thanksgiving week until about, it's normally around the 10th or the 15th of January, real estate tends to be pretty slow for those of us that are in the industry. So people don't move around the holidays unless they absolutely have to, right? And so sometimes people get together over the holidays, right? Proposals and weddings over the holiday season. Getting married around Christmas or Thanksgiving or New Year's, that appeals to a lot of people. Unfortunately, splitting up appeals to a lot of people during that time too, right? If I know I'm going to split up with this person, maybe I do it before the holidays so I don't have to buy them Christmas presents, right? So that's a time of year where we still have home selling, uh, you know, but it's much slower. There's much less calls. There's much less showings on properties, and so why buyers benefit? Number three, why do buyers benefit? Because there's less competition, right? So right now, I'm filming this video, kind of towards the end part of July here. It's been slow for showings for the last couple weeks on the listings that I have on the market, and I'm having to remind my sellers that, hey, we're not getting a ton of showings right now, but the people that are looking right now, late in the summer, that would be willing to write an offer this time of year and close at the end of August or middle of September, those are people that don't care about the school year, right? That might be somebody that accepted a job at DCH, accepted a job at the University of Alabama, accepted a job at Nucor Steel, or any of the great employers in town, and they're in town for a couple days to make the best decision possible. And it might be the only showing you get all week, but it's usually somebody that's a little bit more serious during those times. So if you're looking at homes during those times, you don't have much competition. And if you remember back to the way the market was a couple years ago, everybody was saying, during COVID and post COVID, that houses were hitting the market. Every house was getting multiple offers. People were saying that was such a great market. We'll never see a market like that again. Well, it wasn't a great market if you were one trying to buy a house, right? If you're trying to buy a house and you kept, putting in good offer after good offer after good offer, and you still weren't getting an offer accepted, that was a great market to be a seller, not so much for a buyer. So as a buyer, though, or as an investor, when there's less competition, you're not having to put in as strong of an offer. You can get a little bit more closing costs paid for by the seller. You can only get more repairs. You can only get them to come down on the price, right? Because they know, like, hey, we hadn't had a showing in 2 weeks, and bam, we had a showing, and it resulted in an offer. So buyers benefit by having less competition, right? When we were in the multiple offer season where every house was getting multiple offers, buyers didn't really benefit. Sellers benefited, and then sometimes you might be a buyer and a seller at the same time. So in those kind of markets, in those kind of time frames, you're going to kind of win on one side, right? Like if you were selling your house then and had to buy a house, you were winning when you sold your house, but you were also kind of paying, the inflation tax when it came to buy your next house. And so, as a buyer, if you're looking for the best time of year to buy, you can certainly benefit from buying during those times. So a great way to look at this is, when can I maximize, my profits as a seller, and when can I decrease the amount I'm gonna have to put out as a buyer? If that's you, these are times of the year that you as a buyer will benefit. I do want to remind you though, number four, sellers are still always selling. And so, during those times, there's a lot of people waiting to put the house on the market until after the kids go back to school, right? I've got several people right now, as I'm recording this video, towards the end of July, I've got people that are saying, let's get the kids back in school, let's get back into our school routine, and then we'll put the house on the market, right? We want to get them back. We want to enjoy our last couple weeks of summer. We don't want to keep our, make our beds every single day, have to clean the house every day, have to figure out a plan for the dog. We just want to enjoy our last couple weeks of summer. So the sellers that are on the market right now are experiencing this as well. So lot of ways that you can still benefit. You could make the argument that maybe it's better to buy houses when there's more houses available on the market, right? Like maybe you're fighting over, kind of the leftovers, the houses that didn't sell in the early summer that maybe are overpriced or there was something wrong with them. You could certainly make that argument as well. So is it better to buy the best house in a downtime, or is it best to buy the best house on the market when there's more houses on the market? That's up to you. And I would just remind you, number 5, that there really is no perfect time to ever buy a house, right? I mean, the houses that are on the market right now are going to be different than the houses on the market 3 months from now. And so there's always going to be a fear of like, did I pull the trigger too soon? Did I buy the house because I was under a time crunch? And if I would have waited, I could have got the house I really wanted. Those are decisions that you're always going to second guess, and there's always ways to kind of jump through those hurdles. And a lot of times when I talk to people, when they reach out to me, when they scan the QR code or they click my calendar link below, and they schedule a time to talk to me directly, a lot of times they're feeling stressed. There's a deadline they feel like they have to meet, and a lot of times there's ways to extend those deadlines if you're willing to play the game a little bit. So if you feel like you've got a deadline, I'm not saying that you don't have a deadline, but there are other alternatives. There are furnished rental properties in the Tuscaloosa area that are willing to give you 30, 60, 90 days to live in those things, fully furnished. All the furniture's there, the utilities are included, and that might give you time to learn the area a little bit more and really make the best decision. Live here for a little while, make a more informed decision about which side of town you really want to live on. Maybe more importantly, which side of town you don't want to live on. And that might, that's one way that I've been able to kind of help some folks who are kind of under a time crunch. So 2 best times of the year to buy. Thanks for checking out today's video.